Hi, I'm Douglas Monroe, class of 2005, and I'm here with Marit Halonen Christiansen and Nicolas Mouawad, and we're here for Classmates in Conversation at our 20-year reunion at RCSI. We're all a little rough after last night's festivities, Nick more than the rest of us, but we're looking forward to the conversation and to sharing with you all. So, ladies first, Marit. What led you to study at RCSI all the way from Norway?
All the way from Norway. You know, Norwegians have been coming to Ireland forever. There's actually quite a strong Norwegian history at RCSI. And when I started, I think I didn't want to study in Norway, to be honest. So I applied, and at the time, the government bought spots here. So I got my education covered by the Norwegian government. So we're quite a big contingent, but I was like, that was pure luck getting here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, you know, there's been a long, rich history between the college and obviously a lot of international places. I actually grew up in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and they actually had a deal with one another. So actually the college came down to Bahrain, and they would interview interested candidates, or candidates would be submitted to the college at that time. And so that's kind of how I heard about it. Plus, a lot of colleagues and family friends had actually graduated, were alumni from the college at the time. So it was very exciting to be able to have that relationship and kind of continue it on, almost like a tradition moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
And yourself?
oh, well, I came from the Kingdom of Texas, and and my father was a European trained physician. Both my mother and father were physicians, and we looked at RCSI. I fell in love with it. I came here for a tour. I saw the bullet holes in the front of the facade, and then the one in the push plate in the front ballroom. Stuck my finger in that and told my mother that this is where I'd be coming for medical school. And so that's how I ended up at RCSI. Yeah. And I wanted to get out of America. I wanted to be closer to Europe.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Now, tell me, Marit, we had 5 good years together. You were here for 6.
I was here for 6.
Correct. Tell me one of your fondest memories of being here at Surgeons.
Oh man, there are so many. Well, obviously, good nights, good friendships. I remember you had outstanding tutorials. Oh my God, it's like the light goes on for those.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loved your tutorials.
Nick used to give tutorials for biochemistry for us outside of class, and
Yeah.
I think he's the reason why about 80 to 90% of the class passed the first time on the biochemistry exam.
That is, I think that's correct. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Well, I'm glad I could help.
Yes,
It was a
we
team
were
effort.
glad you could help as well.
It was a team effort, so.
But it was actually a very good team spirit. You know, you'd ask anyone, and even the head of class would be like the best person. If you asked OP something, he would actually explain it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that. It was a good class, and you can see that for the turnout now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I remember one particular Peds, I can't remember his name, but he was saying, keep in touch with your classmates because you're going to you're going to have difficult moments in your career, and you can't really expect your partner to understand that always. So keep in touch with your friends and classmates because you need somewhere to buffer because medicine, obviously, for most of us, it's very serious, and sometimes it's life and death, and it's more death. It's good to have someone who actually understands what you're going through, and that moment is like stuck in my head. And I'm very grateful for that. Probably 5 minutes that he sat down with us and said, "Listen, guys, remember that you need someone to buffer on."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
I think, you know, outside of the education at the college, you know, there is definitely a sense of community. I think we have a sense of belonging, and that's actually that's been lasting and durable. And we see it now 20 years later. I think for me, most of my closest friends are the people that I met at Surgeons, and it continues to be that way, you know, as moving forward. So that's, of course, outside of the just fabulous education that we have, and I think we all realize that because now we're all in our respective fields, and we feel that our basis of education has been really profound.
Exactly.
And very dramatic, I would say.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think we did have a great class. You're
Yeah.
right, Marit. That was collaborative and not competitive.
Yeah.
And, you know, showing up 20 years later, I haven't seen you guys for 20 years, most of you.
Right.
I've seen you guys, but some others I haven't seen for 20 years. But, you know, last night it felt like we had never left,
I know.
you know, which was lovely. Now, you both have had very interesting careers after RCSI. So take me from, you know, when we were all surprised to pass our final exams, not Nick, but the rest of us were. The rest of us were surprised that we passed our final exams. By the way, thanks for that call the night before the final exam for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now.
My pleasure.
Appreciate that. But take me, Marit, from the day of graduation, the day you graduated until, you know, 2 or 3 years after that. And what happened to you?
So I actually decided to take sort of a year off because I was like, well, you know, I'm used to living on a budget. So I did a year of philosophy and history of art in Trondheim. That was a huge change from kind of trying to study. I would kind of roll over and say, oh, you know, I can read that part and I'll just go to another party and drink more red wine. No, but it was good. And it was good to have a different perspective. Then I did my internship in place called Ålesund, small place or small town in Norway. Then I went to up north, came up, it was midnight sun, fabulous. This was in August, it gets darker and darker. I had to get a dog because it was so depressing and, you know, it's winter and
Cold.
It was cold and we didn't have snow earlier, so it was like really, really dark. And not seeing the sun. I mean, there's some kind of light in the sky. It was crazy. Then I went back to Ålesund. I originally wanted to do orthopedic surgery. And then they didn't have any spots available. I applied for short-term job in gynae, and they were so nice. I failed my obs in gynae, by the way. But yeah, now, so I went into obs and gynae. Yeah.
I think we'll all agree that failure in obs and gynae may have been more the consultant than your Marit. I remember that very well, being quite surprised.
I think you're doing pretty well.
I think you're doing fine. So, Nick, I know that you went to McGill in Canada.
Yes.
And so you came over with kind of a background in biochem, which is why you were giving those tutorials. Yeah. Tell us about what happened for you after graduation.
Yeah, after graduation from the college. Yeah, so I did an undergrad degree at McGill, and then I came to the college. And I had completed the training here, I mean, the education here. And I really wasn't sure what I was going to do, whether I was going to go back to North America or stay. So I actually completed my internship year here at Beaumont, which was actually a fabulous experience. And then I did my SHO here as well. And then ultimately I decided to move to the US. I wanted to do surgery. I did general surgery, and it was, you know, a highly interventional field. The volume in the US is just a little bit busier, if you will, at least for training, than it is here in the initial years of training. And so I ended up moving to Michigan to do my general surgery there. And after I did my general surgery, I went to grad school. So I did a master's in business, and then I did a master's in public health, which actually came back from being in Europe. You know, the focus was actually healthcare delivery models, because I lived, I trained, I was educated, I worked, and I was treated in the European system. And I lived and worked and trained, and I was educated and was treated in the American system. The disparity between both systems was so interesting to me, because things were just so different, that I decided to pursue some more education in public health. So that's what kind of prompted that. And then after that, at my general surgery, I ended up going into vascular surgery. And I completed my vascular surgery fellowship in the U.S., and then I ended up staying in the U.S. since that time. And it's been really good, because when I look back at the education, the opportunity, the collaboration, the networking, and so forth, I really don't think it would have been possible without coming to Surgeons and kind of developing that really close base of colleagues. Right now, we actually accept a lot of students from the college. They find me online on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm a student at RCSI. I saw you're an alumnus. Would you mind if I come and did a rotation or not? So we've had several, and I got them into vascular surgery, so I'm pretty proud.
Just proselytizing the entire time, Nick. I see you've made a lot of converts. Now, I just want to follow up on something, because there's a lot of folks from the Americas who come to RCSI. And, there's a lot of talk about FMGs. You hear that in the
Right.
States. So for you as a vascular surgeon, tell me about, are there differences you see between the American and the Irish medical school experience, or the clinical skills you have, once you hit America?
Yeah, I actually think the clinical skills education is much more profound from Europe. I think in the U.S. we have, I don't want to say we have more resources, but a lot of it is based on a lot of imaging, and you have the opportunity to get all that. Over here. You don't have, let's say, that flurry of overwhelming finances that you can just scan. I mean, I remember this. We used to scan everybody in the U.S. We would never scan anybody here, and so it was much more specific on clinical examination. I mean, we would look at the fingers, at the hands. You would be able to tell and diagnose just on very, very, very specific clinical signs, and of course evaluation of symptoms, which is, I think, different than over there. And I appreciate that. I think the education, you have a stronger fundamental basis of particularly anatomy, physiology, and clinical evaluation here than I think in the United States. Now, of course, I did not go to medical school in the U.S., but from what I see for people upcoming, I see that the ones that are educated here tend to have a little bit more from a clinical perspective.
It's funny because I think you're right. I would agree with you, and I think there's an element of critical thinking in there.
Yeah.
When you're able to take a solid history, do a solid physical
Yeah.
exam, and diagnose alone from that, and use imaging for confirmation
Right.
of your hypothesis rather than to arrive at your hypothesis. And that's a pretty powerful skill for physicians. I've heard of graduates in America being called magic doctors because we are able to diagnose without the benefit
Right.
of imaging. So that's quite good.
But sorry, would you say that it's the same from, because obviously it's 20 years since we graduated, because I can see the same in Norway, that the students who come in, or the residents who come in now, they're more dependent on imaging
Yeah.
than we were. So I think also in Europe, at least in Norway, there's been more focus on the imaging just because it's more available. And it's
Yeah.
sad because you actually need to know the critical thinking part is more and more vital, because we can't have like every second person in the world being a doctor.
Right. No, I agree with that. I mean, of course, 20 years have elapsed, so it's a little bit difficult to know. I think outside of the education, there's just external pressures. There is more volume of patients. You can't get through everybody, and so even though it would be academically very interesting to be able to sit and posit and think and pontificate about what the diagnosis can or cannot be, if you can get if you know for a fact, and I'm going to put that in quotes, what the diagnosis is based on imaging, then you can come up with a solution and get on. Embarrassing to say, but to the next person, because there is, of course, a volume relationship that's a little bit necessary. So I think that those pressures, I think, are more problematic.
Yeah.
But I think when you sit down and really look at the education, I think it's, of course, better to be able to diagnose more based on a history and an examination.
I was quite impressed going around the new buildings at RCSI and the amount of expansion there's been.
Yeah.
Talk about, as clinicians, your reaction to what's going on over there across the street now. I don't know if you had the chance to visit the labs over there, the surgical labs, I'm not sure what they're called. I'm too old for this. Robotic surgery labs?
Simulation labs.
Simulation labs, yes. Talk a little bit about that and how that differs from where we were, and what you think that gives to students who are heading to the clinical path.
Well, first, I want to congratulate the college on that, because the college has a very long history and tradition of being here. You can see the placards for anatomy and so forth, but also they're not stagnant. They've been moving with the times, and that's very important for people that are prospective students that are looking to be part of this college, and for things that are coming down the line. Things are moving much more to be computerized, or AI, whatever you want to call it, online. Simulation is very, very important in education, whether it's interventional or surgical or just regular education type concept. So the fact that the college has looked into that, has invested into that, and really has a vision for the future, I think is critical. Of course, it was not available for us at the time, and I think we're just dating ourselves. But I think it's important, because you need that to attract people. Like, I can tell you nowadays, if we have some facilities that people want to go and work in, if you don't have some of the advanced bells and whistles, it's not attractive for even prospective candidates that want to work there. So, of course, I think it's important, and I congratulate them on that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's good for so many reasons. I mean, we do a lot of simulation in Obs and Gynae. We have continuous simulation and training and feedback. And just to learn that from the very beginning, also obviously from the patient and ethical perspective, to practice on a dummy, and you can video it, you can get structured feedback. It's so much better. And the models, we were nerding over the obstetric models. Like, how would you do the forceps? And that's like, we have to move on. But it's great. It just opens so many more possibilities. And because, as we were talking about, that the public, our patients are more demanding, I think it gives you an added sense of security once you've graduated, that I've actually practiced this. I've had an experienced colleague giving me feedback that this is actually the correct way to do it. So, the world might be difficult, but I know that these things I have practiced, I know how to do them.
Right.
It feels safer for the first time to do it on a live patient, because I think we all, I did my first laparotomy and laparoscopy and everything on live patients.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's. I think we see this in crew management training. It's the same thing with, let's say, airplane pilots. I mean, they log 10,000 hours of simulation. Because you don't really. I mean, it's a high stakes situation.
Yeah.
So it should be this. It should be similar. And I think we've moved with the times. Interestingly, though, sometimes the feedback or the data is actually very, very dense. Like, it tells you about your efficiency, unwanted movements. There's some things you kind of don't want to know because it's harder to overcome. But I think the more data you have, the more information you have, the better way you can plan of how to make things better, if you will, or efficient.
Know where to focus your effort.
Yeah, sure.
And I find that's very important in continuous training as well, because people will come like, well, where am I? Well, these parts are good. So would you? I think you should focus on this part. Because sometimes you want to do more of what you're good at. You're good at communication, so you spend your time communicating with the patient. It's like, well, you actually have to operate. You have to actually deliver this baby. You can't just talk to the dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I was struck by the pregnant robot, as you mentioned in there, and they told us that she will request an epidural late in the labor and then remind you again that she requested an epidural, which I thought was very, close to reality in my experience in OB-GYN. And it's really stunning how, we used to have to study and go in and, as you said, just try it in the OR for the first time. But these guys come out so much more prepared for that. And I think it's so beneficial. Let's move off of clinical experience for a bit and talk about extracurricular activities. Nick, we're not going to start with you because I'll give you a little more time to think about how you're going to answer this. But Marit, you have, I called you this summer to make sure you were going to be coming here, and you answered the phone. Your hair was windswept. You looked a little cold, and you told me that you were on a sailboat across the North Sea. And I thought to myself, wow, my God, she's lost it. So tell us a little bit about that trip that you did this summer and your sailing experience in general.
Oh my God. I used to sail when I was younger, and then I picked it back up when I moved in Stavanger where I'm now. I actually I own 50% of a 40-foot sailboat. So we just, in November when the season was ending, we're like, well, we shouldn't just sail to Shetland, because there's a yearly race commemorating like the liaisons between Shetland and Norway. And also during the Second World War, that people would go across to Shetland to safety. Yeah, so we did that, which is kind of a crazy thing to do, because it is, the North Sea is quite rough. There are platforms. You have to keep a certain distance from the platforms. You do a safety training before you go there. I honestly thought I was going to die for some point.
Oh my God.
The sea was so rough,
Yeah.
But I have to say, it was a great experience. Sort of like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But no, it was great. And sailing, it's just something you probably recognize it from theater. Like you can get into the flow. And I've no other activity like, operating, I can get into a flow and I know the time has passed, but it's just kind of so smooth. But sailing is the same. You just have to focus on the sailing, adjusting the sails. It's teamwork. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it to anyone who...
Do you simulate training for that, or no? It sounds like...
No, you have to be hands-on. Okay. But we do a little... debrief afterwards. What could we do better? Did we do anything well? Yeah.
Good. I think it's important.
Yeah.
When you guys sit down, you powwow and you make sure that you can make things better for the next time or whatever. I don't know. I watch these things online, the North Sea. I don't know that I could do a sailboat. I don't know that I could even do it with a powerboat. I mean, I need some sort of major engine there because it looks a little.
It looks dangerous.
Yeah, it looks dangerous.
And I'm not even sure I could watch Marit do it. I think that's how dangerous it looks. I would just be anxious the entire time. Now, Nick, you've gone a long way in your career, and we'll come back to that. But I want to talk a little bit about your more recent experience, extracurricular activity. You married a lovely woman named Joelle, who I have yet to meet. I'm assuming you haven't introduced me on purpose. But then you just had 2 little boys. You've got one who's 2 or 3 now?
2.5.
And then your other one is
almost a month old.
Almost a month old.
Congratulations.
Pretty impressive.
Thank you. Yeah.
So how has that changed your perspective on your career at all?
Oh, of course. I mean, my wife is wonderful. It's really the kids are great. Obviously, it's a different. It's a change, of course, in lifestyle, but it's absolutely worth it. And we feel super blessed, and we're over the moon for all that. Of course, the early years are chaos, so early days. You know this, Doug. You've been through this already, but of course, it's absolutely marvelous. I wish they could be here with us now, but of course, the logistics would be rather challenging.
I would have held that baby throughout this interview. Absolutely,
it's the flight. It's the flight. That's the challenging part.
It is. Believe me, it's not a fun thing to fly with an infant. It's never a good time.
Yeah.
So let's move back into your professional life now. Both of you have accomplished quite a bit clinically, but Marit and Nick, you've also both accomplished quite a bit outside of the clinical sphere. Marit, I know you left practice for a bit to do something else. Can you tell us what you were doing?
Well, I've done 2 separate things. I was head of the Norwegian Junior Doctors Association for a while. So that was, politics, medical politics, which is very interesting. You were talking about how the different healthcare system, how the models are different in Europe and in the US. And this was sort of the policy of like, how can you make the Norwegian healthcare system better, which I found was very interesting. And then after a while, I went back to practice and I applied, I became head of department of the Obs and Gynae in Stavanger University Hospital, which is interesting. It's sort of the same. It's sort of how can you make the system work better? How can you try to make a good working environment for your colleagues, like both the doctors, midwives, the nurses? Because, it's hard. It's hard being a doctor. It's hard being healthcare personnel in 2025, and it's going to be harder because patients are more informed. Some of them are also more disinformed, and you have to spend your time doing that. Trying to building an environment where people can actually have a good day at work most days and know that their boss has got their back. So I enjoy that, and people are like, it must suck being a leader. I was like, no, I've enjoyed all my works, and I wouldn't have done it. I'm an obstetrician, I'm a consultant, I have other options, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact that you can create something different. You can try to make it a little bit easier, a little bit better, and you get to see the bigger picture sometimes. So I never thought, unlike yourself, I never considered that when I was in medical school, going into leadership, doing those kind of things, and just evolved.
Yeah, I think that background in critical thinking that you get here at RCSI really allows you to contribute quite well to the advancement of medicine outside of just patient care, and that's critical, I think, for healthcare in general. And Nick, you've kind of done the same thing with you've done the same thing with the leadership position. Tell us about your.
I think I wanted to touch up on that, Doug, and so have you. I think it's very important in order for us to help shape the future of medicine. Of education, of training, and for the people to follow us, that we have to have a seat at the table. So I think that if we don't, of course, our dedications to our patients, and the issue is that if you're not clinically active, doesn't mean you're not dedicated to patient care. There's just other avenues for us to build, whether it's policy, whether it's advocacy, whether it's education, whether it's whatever. Maybe there's a variety of things, and I think particularly nowadays when everything is so resource constrained, financial literacy is very important because all the challenge, we're trying to work with diminishing returns and less resources, and and who suffer is not the physicians generally. I mean, we do, but the patients suffer. And so in order for us to be able to promote access and care and, future planning, I think it's important for us to have a seat at the table. You've done a marvelous job of that, Doug. I mean, I know you're an MBA and you're involved very aggressively in this, particularly in advocacy and policy. So tell us a little bit about how, your path.
You guys know I'm a fourth generation physician, and growing up, my grandfather used to say, when you're a physician, you won't take off your white coat and participate in leadership because that is beneath a physician. And I think I have found over time that if we abdicate decision making, there will always be someone to step up and make decision in lieu of the physicians. And they may not have an understanding of patient care or the kind of how their decisions will impact the patients. And so I think for physicians especially, and for people looking to get into healthcare and be a physician, or for graduates, newly graduated physicians, you're right. It's important to have financial literacy in healthcare right now. It's important to have, I would say, strategic and organizational effectiveness literacy as well, because all of that pushes us forward, but it also protects the gains we've made. And so, I think filling that void with clinical expertise, and I think also adding to your clinical expertise with people expertise, right? Over time is very important. We spend a lot of time studying and not talking to one another when we're in medical school. But afterwards, managerial skills are quite different. But I think they are not, I wish they were more ubiquitous among physicians, and I wish there were more physicians who were willing to step up to help guide where we're going next, because I think it's critical.
Well, they say, medicine is a profession, it's a calling, but healthcare is a business. And so you have to be able to negotiate, those waters, those conflicts, the organizational behavior that's necessary, organizational leadership or restructuring can make things rather challenging. And I think, of course, physicians are, I would say, in a perfect position to be leaders to help move the needle to wherever it needs to be, but we need to be involved. Otherwise, people are going to make the decision for us, and it will affect us. And of course, it will affect our patients.
Yeah. I recognize what you're saying about like taking off your white coat to become a leader. I found when I was maybe not so much in the RCSI, but when I came to my internship and stuff, was like, you have the great clinician, and then you have the person the physician who does research, and then you have the physician who kind of resigned.
The chairman.
The chairman.
Down here, right?
And
the chairperson.
We need to change their perspective, because if we're not there, healthcare is a business, and I struggle explaining this to my doctors and my colleagues, because it's just money. It's like, but money is that's how we can make a better healthcare system. Yeah. We just need to look at that bottom line and see where can we tweak so we can spend our resources more wisely. And there's no opposition in having a good result, because normally, like, a good medical result would give you a good financial results. In my branch, it's not often that, because, like, a vaginal delivery, very poorly paid. Cesarean, much better paid, but from a bigger perspective, it's better. But most of the time, preventative healthcare is another issue where it's like, it's not really a lot of money in it, but it would save the healthcare system a lot of money, and you could prioritize your resources for those people who actually need it,
Right, but when you think about that, let's just say, I'm going to touch on this. So preventative medicine, the corollary, if you will, to the finance is investment. You're investing now, you're going to reap the rewards down the line. So, so it's important to do that, even though there might not be an immediate financial gain, but down the line, there's going to be a significant cost savings when you're not reactive, but you're proactive in the management of these patients or these particular medical conditions. I'm happy to see that we're talking about this, because this is something we would never. First of all, there's no non-clinical stuff that's taught in medical school, but once you come out of medical school, the world unfortunately runs on a lot of financial stuff, and so we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. I just feel that physicians should be leaders. Because if we don't decide our own fate, somebody else is going to do that for us. And who understands our fate better than us? Nobody. So I really think it's important for us to have a seat at the table.
I mean, perhaps the next thing we add to the simulation center is an administrator in a suit and an insurance executive, and we'll teach the teach the students how to deal with that as well. It struck me. I had a recent conversation with a clinician who said, "I always believed that if I was good at clinical practice, the money would follow, and I'd be able to do what I needed to do for my patients." But I think we've all realized that that's not necessarily true when you get out into the real world. So I think you're right. The literacy is incredibly important going forward, because we don't want to leave that vacuum in physician leadership.
Yeah.
Guys, tell me a little bit about how you spend your free time. You have a lot of responsibilities. As a vascular surgeon, as an OB-GYN, it can be quite stressful. So what do you do to relax, Nick, other than hitting the dance floor, as we all know?
So free time for a vascular surgeon, I don't know that I've found this pot of gold yet. Of course, there is a significant challenge, particularly in surgical specialties, but I'm sure the same challenges apply to many, many other physicians as well. Fortunately for me, when we get some time off, I like to spend it with my family. We like to travel, try different, foods or restaurants, things like that. We're trying to keep things a little bit more local, just because it's difficult to be able to travel now with the two young kids. I do cherish that time dramatically. I think it's fabulous, and I think it's important to be able to take some time for yourself. I mean, you don't actually have to do something else in your free time. Sometimes just resting and being able to recharge, I think is just as important as being able to enjoy new experiences. But whenever we get a chance, we try to, travel or, try new things. I think those are more important. I think having more experiences or creating more memories, I think, is what we look forward to a lot more.
Yeah, sort of like you have to not waking up and 20 years has passed, but you don't know where those 20 years went.
Well, but it doesn't feel like that sometimes, because you train so much, right? And there's so much time has passed by that, you wake up, you're like, oh my God, all these years have passed by. But because we dedicate so much of our time to our profession, which is, of course, extremely important. But it's, time gets away from you sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen what I'm doing if I didn't enjoy it, because life's too short to do something you're not truly enjoying.
Right.
But you have to have a balance.
I agree.
And I think it's funny, like, he's a vascular surgeon. He's got 2 kids beneath the age of 3. It's like, what's spare time?
Oh, there's no spare time. My wife's a saint. My wife's a saint.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We all knew that even before you had children, Nick.
She's great.
Yeah. One of my friends says that's why she's got small kids as well. She's like, well, I'm not really trying to disconnect. I'm trying to connect with my family and with the world outside of work, and just connecting to something else. Yeah. How about yourself? Do you have spare time?
Yeah, I got spare time. I'm in business. So, but I think obviously spending time with the kids is number one. Yeah. When I can. The 16-year-old girl is not so interested in that anymore. Well, she used to be. We used to love spending time together. Now I'm just out of it, and I don't know quite as much as TikTok. But the 11-year-old still likes me for now. And we go play golf quite a bit.
Good.
We drag the girl to come and watch us. She hates that. Yeah. So, it's been quite a trip having a boy and a girl. And the boy has a lot of energy. So we try to burn that off as much as we can. So that takes up most of my free time. We live in Texas, so swimming in the pool just to try to cool off just a little bit every now and then is a lot of fun. And then, we like to take the kids to travel. This has been a great trip for them, being able to see the school. They were laughing at us because we didn't know why, but they were looking at Maria and I married a classmate, Norwegian, imported her to Texas, and they were laughing. Why are you guys laughing at us? It's so weird to see that you guys have friends, they said.
Oh my God.
Which really comes back to the first point you made, which is our best friends are here at the reunion, right? And so, but they had never seen us with friends before because, and so I think, that's very rewarding to see where they'll go with that. And Marit, Nick, thanks so much for joining us. It's been lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for being with us. And from the class of 2005, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll see you at RCSI in 5 or 10 more years. And we will all 3 still look exactly the same.
And we'll be there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.